My name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to go through and answer some of the member lounge questions that we have inside of the school, because we're getting some really fantastic questions. And every so often, it's just like I can't just answer them through typing. It just makes more sense to give some more. To give some more detailed responses for everybody, because the questions are so wonderful. So a few things I'm going to go through first. One of the first questions I have is from somebody in the school we'll call R. And this individual says that they're going through the reprogramming exercises and they're finding themselves like really wanting to hang on to certain belief patterns. And the R goes on to say, I know from recent webinars that this means my subconscious still finds more value in holding on to these beliefs. So what do I do now? Has anyone else worked through something like this? So basically, R is trying to go through and reprogram these different beliefs by really pushing up and challenging and sort of questioning these things she's holding on to and looking for counteracting pieces of evidence to oppose the belief to see, is this belief always true, or is there actually, more to the whole story? And can I sort of zoom out and see a bigger perspective to my life? So let's just say, for example, carrying the belief that we're not good enough. We might be carrying this belief. We might be often, retelling this story to ourselves, but when we really challenge it, can we truly know that we're not good enough, or are we holding ourselves to perfectionistic standards all the time? Are we not allowing space for ourselves to learn by making mistakes every so often? Are we, expecting so much from ourselves in areas that we still have lots of learning and growing to do? Are we judging ourselves unnecessarily for things? So it's really like being able to go, okay, I'm not good enough. Can I really know this is true? And do I have any other counteracting pieces of evidence? And there's a certain process that can be plugged in here to actually, fire and wire new neural pathways repetitively, and by lacing emotion in there to start reprogramming the subconscious and changing that belief altogether. So the end of this question that she asks is, I know from recent webinars, this means my subconscious, she's finding she's doing all that work, doing the reprogramming, and she's finding that she's getting stuck on a belief. And she's going, I know that this means my subconscious still finds more value in holding on to the belief. So what do I do now? The answer is, if you hold more value in holding on to a belief, you have to go above the belief and see what the belief is that's blocking you from working on that belief about yourself. So for example, if I start being too gentle to myself, or I'm forgiving of myself, I will end up being blindsided and rejected even more, or I'll fall even further behind in life at being good enough. So we have some kind of belief in our subconscious that acts as a barrier when we run into this. I actually don't see this that often. I'd say maybe in 5% of people, especially when I'm doing, work with people and hearing about these things inside the school or in one-to-ones. And, if this is taking place, the barrier is a belief above, and we have to define what that belief is, and we have to question that belief as well. And we have to look at the cost of trying to hang on. Our brain tries to hold on to these old painful stories about ourselves because it usually believes that if we let go of it, something bad's going to happen, or we're going to become unsafe, or we're going to get hurt or rejected or criticized even more long term. And so we expose ourselves to that, and we have these one-sided perceptions about life. And that's what blocks us from letting go of these beliefs. If we're finding that we're doing the work and that last straw just isn't letting go, this is why. So try to ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I let go of this belief? And then write that out. And it might be, I'm going to be unsafe. I'll be rejected. I'll be criticized, whatever it is. Then question that belief and do the equilibration technique. And then what we want to do is, if you want to sort of take this a step further, you can also try to work on letting go of that belief by looking at the cost. Like, really, truly, what does it cost me to always be putting myself down, thinking I'm not good enough, holding myself back, and look at the cost of hanging on to the belief, so that you're juxtaposing that with this program that thinks it's safer to hold on to it. And write out a few reasons or ways that this belief would cost you. And through doing this exercise, you will see that you're ready, your subconscious mind is ready to let this belief go. So another wonderful question I have is from L. And this individual says, this is in regards to your YouTube video on what your ex is feeling during no contact and the 4 stages they go through. So if the DA ends the relationship and they move on to another relationship very quickly, do they still go through the 4 stages? So if anybody's curious, check out my previous video about how the dismissive avoidant responds as the partner as they're going through no contact, to their ex. And what I would say is that the dismissive avoidant goes through the 4 stages, absolutely, but the stages can be more splintered apart, so they can experience them at different times, at different rates. They might feel the regret or the remorse much, much later on because they sort of have these buffers to break up that process itself. So another wonderful question that I have is from Elle. And this question is, I really want your perspective on millennial hookup culture and how that affects relationships that ensue as a result. I heard you mention a long while ago when you were going through the breakup series for each attachment style that jumping back into a sexual connection with someone after you broke up will only recreate the same patterns. So my question is, what happens when for so many millennials or people in general, the connection starts off as a friendship and eventually becomes sexual? What impact will that have on the different attachment styles? Can true feelings arise from that? Is that an unhealthy type of connection? So if you are in a relationship, the relationship was having toxicity, and then you broke up, and then you just like that comfort, and so you go back to like having sex together for periods of time, that's probably going to just enable the toxic dynamic to stay alive. It may be like more bearable at periods of time, but we're also making the assumption that both parties aren't doing some kind of work on themselves, right? Or that there aren't clear boundaries and open communication around sex during the process. Now, most people that end up in that space because they couldn't work through some of their personal and emotional challenges in the first place. And so that's why they get stuck here, right? In that relationship. And so what that usually means is there's sort of like these triggers that are subconsciously stored in that relationship dynamic that are kind of like, you know, these wires waiting to be tripped or bombs waiting to go off. And so it's really important to recognize that just doing that will usually enable those root problems to stay alive. However, if you have a friendship and then it eventually becomes something physical, usually this works out very well for a lot of people. You know, I think in today's culture, because so many people, at least in like Western society, tend to be, you know, connecting through dating apps and Tinder and Bumble and all these sort of dating apps that I hear about. What happens is like we build this space where it's like, okay, there's short-term gratification. We don't really have the time or take the time. There's no reason to take the time to really build that deeper connection emotionally and really work through things and really get to know the person and build that trust. Because if it's not working and there's, you know, a little conflict over here, we don't absolutely love that person and they don't fit our standard of perfection, it's like, oh, okay, go on to the next person. There's so much convenience in the situation. And so with a friendship, we sort of get to avoid that problem because you get to establish that relationship with somebody and understand them at a personal level first. So if that becomes sexual, for all attachment styles, there generally tend to be, overall, I'm very much generalizing on the person, okay, but overall I would say there's more benefits and drawbacks as long as those feelings are real, right? As long as it's not somebody just making that decision out of convenience, but because they had the chance to get to know the person, understand them, and these are sometimes the relationships that I see as the most successful long term. So that's an interesting note, and it's definitely not healthy because the difference between the health or not healthiness, sorry, it definitely can be healthy, because the difference between the health and the not being healthy is, did we break up and have all this trauma, and not necessarily trauma, but just all these unresolved issues, and then we sort of go back to the same situation, but we're afraid of going there and really having those tough conversations. And if you're just moving from a friendship into a physical relationship, that's not really necessarily running into those problems. However, you can work on having some of those tougher conversations as you're progressing from friendship to something physical. You can talk to the person and say, you know, what's going on here? What are our boundaries? What do we need from one another? Where are we both at as individuals? And you can, as long as you're holding space to have those deeper conversations, good things will come. So I'm gonna make another video and go into some other questions in here because there's some really great ones as well. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. One other really quick thing I'll let you know is that we are doing a stay-at-home sale just to sort of protect and help our community in any way possible. So if you're looking to sign up for courses, if you are looking to be a member, join the live webinars, be a part of our community, connect with people from home, we are here to help you, and we have a coupon code in the description below that says "with you," it's all one word, and it's for 25% off our individual course purchases or bundles. And if you're struggling financially or you're out of work and you're looking for some sort of scholarship or something that will help you during this time, please reach out to my team at info@personaldevelopmentschool.com. And we have people there that will chat with you and set you up with something and help you stay organized and supported during this time. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.